work hard, but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new live stream. We got 350 people already in chat. Let's get to 100 likes so we can turn this face cam on and we can get ready to talk about a lot of new developments that have been happening over the past few days. We have a cabinet that is almost completed, and we have a lot of takes about the cabinet that are just, honestly, it feels like I'm going to be pessimistic. I could sit here and look at the previous cabinet and say how every single position has upgraded from 2017. I'm not necessarily going to do that, and we're going to do an entire video probably within a week or two comprehensively grading the cabinet, but we'll go over some of the more recent picks, who I like, who I am, maybe not all that crazy about, but there's not like a single red flag pick that I can say that person's horrible, they're going to tank the administration, that person doesn't exist. I just going to be completely honest with people. Now, I will say that we have to get to the left's reaction, not to the cabinet picks, but to the administration, because they're losing their minds. And we also have to get to some other things. But I kind of wanted to touch base on something I drew in my notebook back in July, the 2024 problem. And I said it at the time, Democrats were going to screw themselves. And honestly, that's the way it was going to be the entire time. And I know my handwriting isn't that good, but all great geniuses of history are known for having poor handwriting, so bear with me. You have the Democrats. They could either stick with Biden or not. Either way, they'd lose to Trump because they had to go with Kamala Harris. I said then and there, she's not winning. She's a horrible candidate. She's Michael Dukakis, who happens to be a female and an ethnic minority. That's all she really was. And definitely we have, more polarizing times. Trump isn't going to win by 400 electoral votes or whatever, but still, he won by a lot. He absolutely won by a lot, and you see this. It would be a DEI violation had they gone with somebody else. So we were right about a lot of stuff. And every little stream we can take a little mini victory lap. But I found this interesting because I just wrote this down in early July, not knowing it would actually happen. But it's like the Democrats are completely screwed. They have no direction. And they still have no direction, by the way. We're going to get into that first. And part of it is because Donald Trump right now is actually sitting at a record high in the polling. You talk about his presidential transition, 59%, according to YouGov. YouGov was one of Trump's weakest pollsters the entire election cycle for those that were paying attention. But you look at Trump's approval rating right now in YouGov, 60%. You can round it up, it's 60. That's huge. You're talking about a traditional honeymoon period that presidents usually have gotten in the past. Trump didn't really get one. Biden maybe had a mini one. But again, when almost half the country views you as illegitimate, didn't really have that much of a honeymoon period. But now we're looking at what's going on here with this honeymoon period. You're looking at Donald Trump and his transition. It is being very, very positively viewed as things stand right now, as things stand today. That was not the case in 2016. It is right now. He's flying high in the approvals. And when you have a country that's this polarized, this divided, and somebody like Donald Trump, who they've said he's an unpopular president, they viewed him as illegitimate back in 2016. They tried to subvert his administration for 2 years with the Russia stuff and did so for even longer than that, to be honest, with who they basically made sure got in that cabinet. Now it's a little bit of a different ballgame, and we'll get to some of that later, and I'm sure we'll get to some of it in the super chat. But that is a very high favorable rating. Donald Trump, his favorables have always been maybe like, I guess you would say before 2016. In that election, they were in the mid to high 30s at best. Then they were in the 40s. Now they're entering the 50s. He cannot He cannot be stopped. He keeps getting more popular. It's a honeymoon period, it's true, but people are giving him a chance. Nobody really gave him a chance the last time. The people that did, he really won over. Now more and more people are giving him a chance, and when we get 2026, if Democrats can't really find anything wrong with this administration to capitalize on, and it's not like anybody trusts the media anymore, it's like, well, maybe they're going to be in trouble. They could very well be in deep trouble for all we know. And that's that. But here's another poll that's important. Feeling about Trump winning, 31% are happy, 24% are satisfied. So that's 55% of the country that is glad Trump won, even though he only got the votes of 50% of the country. That is still a very, very good thing to see when you look at this polling, because it shows that the mood of the nation, even people who may not have voted for Trump, are still kind of relieved. Maybe they bought into the lies, bought into the nonsense. Happens every cycle with some of these weak people, but maybe those weak people get a little bit stronger and realize, okay, it's a little bit of a different ball game now. Let's see what happens, guys. And that's what is going on. And the left, as a result, they just don't know what the hell to do. And there's this article from Breitbart, anti-Trump resistance movement facing post-election disillusionment with activism. Because for people that don't remember, 2017, you had Antifa. I mean, like, they love to talk about 1-6. 1-6 was nothing in comparison to what they were doing after Trump won in 2016. Portland was on fire. Seattle was on fire. Cities across the country were on fire. Maybe not to the BLM level in 2020, but still there were a lot of protests that turned violent and got out of hand. And you saw at the inauguration last time, you know, a few blocks down, obviously, not right where it was happening, but you had a lot of people that were there and that were, smashing car windows and throwing Molotov cocktails into buildings and things like that were just out of hand. And then you had the Women's March, and then you had all these other marches of nonsense from the left. It was a grift they were able to ride. We can get him, they said. Now, no, they can't get him. He already won. Now he's got a trifecta, and now he's also popular. They can't stop the guy. He's basically this unstoppable force that they're dealing with, and they can't stop him whatsoever. They're weak. A lot of these people are weak. And the old guard of the Democrats that were smart and competent, they're dying out. Not necessarily, well, I mean, physically, literally, and figuratively, it's true. You have a lot of these people, they're, in their 60s, 70s, 80s. A lot of them are just retiring. And who's taking over? Some of the craziest people from the Obama era that were just getting their feet wet in politics that now are controlling the entire Democrat Party. And we'll see what they do. But these people are not smart. They're not competent. They're crazy. And they never learn a damn thing from anything. And now they're like, oh, it's over. And you could look into this article. And it goes on. They interview several people, and they say there's disillusionment with activism. It was jarring, but, when you normalize something, the more habituated you become to it. So these people are definitely angry, but they're saying the average, people are not, they're going on with their lives, and they're not going to be upset at every little thing. The narrative has become entirely broken, and they're struggling with that because they can't exactly communicate their message towards people, even though you have Trump in office in a post-Dobbs v. Jackson America. They're not even able to drum up enough enthusiasm for the Women's March. And these are the same people that told us that abortion was going to be the top issue in the 2024 election. They told us that women would hide their votes from their husbands for some reason. They told us that Republican women would be voting in droves for Kamala Harris. None of that happened. In fact, less of that happened compared to 2016 with Hillary Clinton when they claimed, 30% of Republican women in Florida were voting for Hillary. Remember that. It never happened. It was 6%, which is about average, about the same margin that voted for, Obama over Mitt Romney. So when you look at that, it's it's just not a real thing. These people people are clowns. They've always been clowns. Their analysis has always been very clown-like. Their approach to politics has never been sound, and they had the institutions backing them up, and they still largely do, but it's not where it was because they know they're ineffective. But are the Democrats going to be able to learn a damn thing from their crushing loss? You can see this right here. That's not the right thing, but this is the right thing. The mandate extends far beyond the amount of votes Donald Trump got. It's also because of the policies, because the policies have always been more popular than the man himself for some reason or another, largely because of the media crusade against him, the attack on him. But when you poll mass deportations, 57% to 43% in this poll approve of a program to deport all illegal aliens. You know, when they phrase it in these exit polls and it comes back at like 40, 60, which is still much higher than it was back in the day, by the way, they use the term undocumented, which again, that's the most ridiculous term anybody could ever come up with for these people. They're undocumented. So if I have a drug dealer, they're an undocumented pharmacist. That's not exactly how it works. Is a murderer an undocumented suicide assistance technician? No, that's not how it works at all. It's just ridiculous. They're trying to manipulate the emotions of the public by coming up with ridiculous terms. The proper term is illegal alien, for the record. They say immigrants illegally, basically alluding to the term illegal immigrant, which it's more neutral, I guess you would say. I don't think it's like the end of the world, even though illegal alien is the proper term to use, because you're technically not an immigrant if you've immigrated illegally, by definition of the term. But this is the mandate that Trump has. And still, what are they going to go against? Because they want to win in 2026. They want to win in 2028. What are they going to go against? How are you going to find a way to defeat essentially just common sense that people want, basically? Like, how are you going to do that? It's an important question. And then you have people like this guy, the mayor of Denver, who's going out and saying that he's willing to go to jail to block deportations. Seriously, these are the people. They have not understood why they've lost. They still don't know why they've lost. They blame disinformation, despite the fact that who spewed more disinformation in this election? Was it Republicans relaying concerns that people have about their towns being taken over by third world migrants, which was true? Or is it the party that tried to claim that the other guy was literally going to usher in a fascist theocracy for some reason, and also happened to have a national abortion ban, all these other things, Project 25, all the lies they campaigned on? Obviously, it would be the lies and the deceitful nature of every iota of their campaign. Every last bit of it was dishonest to a certain extent. And of course, there's going to be a little bit of dishonesty in politics on every side. It's politics. We understand that. But these people that say it was Twitter, or X, I guess you should say now, or disinformation. No, it's not. It's not disinformation. It's not Russia. It's not racism. It's not all the ism they want to throw out there. It's you. It's people like you who are clowns that just are devoid of common sense. That's all it's ever been with these people. And Trump has gotten more popular, and they wonder why. And obviously part of it is because Trump is great and Trump is epic, but a lot of it is also because of them. And Donald Trump has become so popular because he clowns and he dunks on these people, these lunatics, these losers. All they do is lose now. You know, this is not a special election. This is not a midterm election. This is a real big boy election, and they suck at those. I mean, 2020... even given every single, I guess you would say, like every little possible way you could look at it, it just still was an abysmal performance for the Democrats, even with a little bit of padding, come to think of it, given the main circumstances. But that's beside the point. If they really want to run on democracy in 2026, they want to run on deportations bad in 2026, they'll give a red wave. They will. I mean, that's the way it goes. Look at the top fundamentals. What's driving voters to the polls? Of course, there's things like you got to run good candidates in these Senate races or whatever. Like, that all matters too. But the Democrats are the ones that are trying to go on offense. Republicans were the ones trying to go on offense in 22 in regards for the Senate. Like, besides Georgia, maybe Michigan and New Hampshire, which Scott Brown might go for, which he'd be an interesting, if he's able to win that race, that'd be something to look at. It's New Hampshire's more liberal state, but he was an intriguing senator when he was from Massachusetts. Better than people would think for a state like that being able to win, but that's not the point. The main point here is when you look at these, admit they're wrong, and instead of trying to learn from their mistakes, if possible, instead of trying to learn from their mistakes, they're just doubling down on insanity, doubling down on stupidity. And they think that's what's going to carry them out of the rut that they're in. No, it's not how it works. It's going to dig the hole deeper and deeper to the point where your party is not going to be able to get out of it. I know the pendulum always swings back. I know Republicans have a lot of work to do getting these people to show up in non-presidential years. But in terms of just talking about the possibility for a reversion, or an asterisk midterm, Democrats are asking for it right now. Obviously, we have 2 years to go. I'm not saying that a lot can't change, but from what I'm seeing right now, it's showing that these people have no drive to realize what they've gotten wrong or figure out. They have no bench for 2028 even. They're even talking about running Kamala Harris again. Like this whole like Trump didn't have a mandate type of thing. They really could look back on this and say, hey, Biden gave Harris a bad hand. Let's run her against Vance because, they'll go back to, Vance is weird and we'll run Kamala Harris so she'll beat him. No, that's not how it works. They're detached from reality and nothing has changed on that front. They're asking to get decimated in every future election possible. They are. I mean, who's left in their party? Who wants to be a Democrat right now? Or a never Trump Republican, those people. Oh, they tried to get this guy and he took the whole mantle of the party away from him. And there's still a lot of them in the Senate, even though they're not open about it, but we know who they are. You got a lot of those clowns still running the show, but there's a lot less of them than there were when Trump entered. He had a hostile Congress. He had Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, and I could name dozens of senators that would make people wince if they hear their names and they remember anything about them, who were in that delegation when Trump took over. And it's not perfect. There's a lot of work to be done. I'm not saying that we can't still do that, because we have a duty to still work and make sure that we can get these losers out of there, and the people that are like in the mess section, push them in the direction they need to be pushed in. That's how we win. But it's like these people don't get it. They never get it. I hope they never do get it, because they're going to keep losing. It's going to be embarrassing. And Donald Trump is going to have even more of a mandate to remake and continue making the party in his image. And that's what we're seeing. So you look at the polling data, you look at these lunatics and how they're reacting to it. The Democrats just don't really get it. Trump is outflanking them on a lot of fronts. The economy, he's stealing their own base in many ways. And that's a major, major problem. And he's got the entire country, almost 2/3 of the country, rooting for the guy right now. This guy that was extremely polarizing leading up to 2016. The entire landscape has changed. It's now up to getting Donald Trump to be in a position where he can effectively enact his agenda once he takes power. And then you get to 26, and then you get to 28, and we keep the ball moving down the field. We'll get there. But we got to look at the cabinet. We got a lot of new people in the cabinet, and I want to talk about some of them. I'm not going to go over people like Rubio or Hegseth. We've been over these guys. We did a whole stream talking about the Bondi pick. I think it's a good pick overall. Regardless, whoever would be in that slot after Gates was going to have a lot of haters, because it would look like a compromise pick. That doesn't mean that Bondi is not a good pick, because she is a good pick from basically all fronts that I've seen in terms of what you have in an attorney general, somebody who's not going to backstab Trump, somebody who has been very tough on crime in Florida. There's concerns about like gun control or something like that. I think it's a little bit overblown. A little bit of a different era. We saw Trump at the same time talk about red flag. He never actually went through with it. There's that. But you have a few new people that I feel like we should talk about. You have Lori Chavez DeRemer at Labor. And a lot of people are giving mixed reactions about Lori Chavez DeRemer. And she did support a bill in Congress that went a little bit too far, in my opinion, of being pro-union or whatnot. But I think that there's a really big argument to be made here that this is a very important pick that Donald Trump made, because you have a president, a Republican president, who's winning rank and file union members, and you're trying to get them to be more in your corner, and then you pick somebody who happens to be more of a union-friendly type of figure. And does that mean she's going to run the entire show regarding union matters or give everything to the unions? No, but she's somebody that's the olive branch. Personally, if I'm Donald Trump and I want to lead the Republican Party in the populist direction, I'm going to talk about onshoring manufacturing, onshoring jobs, raising people's wages. I want to be talking about, yeah, you can do that, and we need to talk about how we can strike the balance of cutting regulations, which need to be cut, but also ensuring, safe workplaces, workplace safety, etc. That is kind of how you strike the balance. Somebody like her, I feel like, can do that effectively. It's somebody that Donald Trump could use in the cabinet on that front. So in terms of that, that's why she was picked. I think there's flaws in that bill she supported, absolutely. But overall, it's an important pick to kind of keep and sustain the coalition, because you have so many of these like business con types. Some of them are worse than others for sure when it comes down to this, but their only convictions are about the economy, and they're not even in lockstep with Donald Trump's vision on like protectionism. That's the brand of the GOP. If you want to win elections after Trump or in off years, you have to change the brand of the GOP, and you have to put the right people in the right places that are going to be effective at representing the coalition one way or another. So while there are some people that will critique the pick, I don't really have much of an issue with it, to be honest, even though you could make a case that I don't agree with her on everything. And then you have a Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. A lot of people are saying, this guy's a Soros guy because he worked for a hedge fund or something that had loose ties to Soros. And it's like the same people that say, oh, Trump has ties to Soros or Vivek has ties to Soros. You have a guy who his entire career, he's been building his economic philosophy on economic nationalism to an extent, and has been a loyal Trump backer since 2016. When a lot of people have jumped ship, he didn't. That's a part of a reason why he's there. This is not some Goldman Sachs guy like the last administration that you're putting in to lead the Department of Treasury. But for some reason, people are trying to, get a map out and draw this guy's connected to this guy, connected to this guy. It's like, stop. What are you people doing? You're just trying to be miserable. And I'm not saying you can't be skeptical. I think there's reasons to be skeptical of a good amount of people on this list. They're not going to be perfect. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to do a decent enough job and not get in Donald Trump's way. They don't have to be super based on everything. Those people don't exist, for the record, in big numbers. You have Tulsi at DNI. That's a huge pick. It's true you have some people that are in the foreign policy section that are a little questionable, but you have some people that are really good, and then the worst people are questionable, and that's supposed to be this is a horrible, horrible thing. Why did we vote for this? It's people just need to chill out and stop acting so schizophrenic at every little decision that Donald Trump makes. That's not to say that every decision's going to be good or every person's going to be good. You know who Donald Trump is known for in terms of presidents? High turnover. He fires people. He does. He fires people, but he's been around the block one time. He has an agenda. He knows who he can trust to enact it. He's going to trust a longtime friend in Treasury who's built his entire brand on protectionism. broad tariff, supporting Trump's economic agenda. He has a very Shinzo Abe-like vision as well for the economy. The Three Arrows philosophy wants to do that here. That is not in lockstep at all with what George Soros stands for economically. George Soros is an open markets guy. So when people make these allegations, they have to think through, like 5 seconds, is this something that makes sense? And if the answer is yes, then it's one thing. But if the answer is no, then it's like, okay, well, it's not really that big of a deal. So there's that. And then you have a few other picks. Dr. Oz, a lot of people don't like that one. MAGA Mehmet returns to the cabinet. And it's like, people are like, well, he's a liberal or something. And it's true. I didn't support him really in the primary. I didn't really support anybody in the primary in Pennsylvania back in 2022 because of that reason. But the guy is not managing like DEI removal practices. He's managing Medicare and Medicaid. Like, do people really understand what the roles are in the cabinet when they want to come out here and say all this nonsense and say that Trump is picking people that are like, oh, this guy's not all 100% in lockstep with everything I agree with. He's handling Medicare. Who cares? Let it go. Go outside. Do something worthwhile instead of complaining about Dr. Oz and what he tweeted 5 years ago. It's not even like the COVID policy thing, which, by the way, Dr. Oz was one of the first people to say, oh, Trump about these potential drugs that he's promoting that a lot of people didn't like in the mainstream media. He was giving the green light on them, for the record, so he's not some complete, total big pharma shill anyways, but that's not even the role of the Medicare and Medicaid administrator. It's not whatsoever. So it's like, let it go. Damn, these people are clowns, all of them. And then you have a few other people that Trump put in there. You have Brooke Rollins at Agriculture. I don't really know what experience she has, but I don't really think it matters. How many people in the Biden cabinet don't have experience at that post or whatever? RFK Jr., you have a lot of people that are in the cabinet that can guide these people in the right direction, which is probably a good thing if they're a blank slate. If, Kelly Loeffler was going to be put up there like CNN falsely reported. It's like she's got ties to, the Wall Street executives. She's got ties to big agriculture. That's not who you want in that position. And then you have the FDA guy who's like in lockstep with RFK's agenda. You have, I don't know, some random guy who worked under Ben Carson at HUD is going to lead HUD. That's not surprising. And then you have the Surgeon General, Jeanette Nationwide. A lot of people are losing their minds. A lot of like the DeSantis 2024 type of crowd is losing their mind about that pick because she happened to, I don't know, believe in the COVID stuff for like a few more months than a lot of these other clowns did. And it's like, okay, but she admits she's wrong. You could say that that's like not a good thing, but here's the deal. She's Surgeon General. She's going to print labels that go on beer cans and tell people not to drink it if they're pregnant. Like, that's the main focus. Like, Trump's COVID policy was largely shaped by the, obviously Mike Pence was one of the people. He's gone. Alex Azar, another loser, he's gone. And now RFK Jr. has his position, assuming he ends up getting confirmed. So it's like you have all these other people in the mix, but you have somebody who, I don't know, didn't get it until it was maybe a hair too late, but then actually gets it now, and Trump appoints them, and it's like, oh, this is the end of the world. It's like, just shut up, okay? You don't know what the hell you're talking about. These people have been wrong about everything. Everything since 2022. They've been wrong about everything. They said Trump wouldn't run. They said Trump couldn't win the primary. They said Trump couldn't win the general. They said all these things. Trump's going to fail. They're rooting for the country to fail now. It's not like they're on the left and are rooting for Trump to fail because they're playing partisan politics. These people are perpetual losers and lunatics that are just upset because Donald Trump owns them. He owns them. He's rent-free in their heads for the past, honestly, it's been the past 8 years. Whether they've supported him on and off is irrelevant. That crowd is the Republican establishment. They will find any way possible to just pretend like they're the true principled conservatives because they're having some, opinion about Donald Trump that's a little bit out of the orthodoxy from like whatever MAGA wants, and they think that the MAGA wing is the enemy for no reason, and then they're complaining that they're not voting for their like candidates that they put up. It's like if you want people to vote for somebody other than Trump in 24, you got to put up somebody worth a damn to do it. And not somebody who cannot relate to people, cannot relate to the voters, and is lying about Trump's record trying to get ahead. That's not what people wanted. That's not what people like. And as a result, that's what you get with these people. A lot of complainers who do nothing but just try to find a reason to be upset. They're not getting anywhere. They've been wrong about everything. They have. And we could talk about some of the other picks. It seems like a lot of these picks have already been announced. So I don't really think there's much of a reason to go over them. And we will go over them in the final video we make about the cabinet. But you have the trade representative slot. You have the small business slot. I think he's going to put Lighthizer back there at trade. That'd be a great thing for sure. As for the rest of the cabinet, it is what it is. But we'll cover it as we go on if we get more picks in, but we will get to the people, we'll get to the super chats, and that's the way it goes. So yeah, a lot of concern trolls in the not in chat, but in terms of the people that you see talking about Trump's cabinet. I'm not saying there isn't, maybe this guy's somebody to watch, maybe this person's that's one thing. When you have the full-scale meltdown lunacy from people where they try to dig up every little thing that a person says, or they blatantly lie about somebody saying they have ties to Soros because they worked for a firm that had loose ties to Soros, even though they've been opposing Soros at every step of the way with their own economic philosophy, it's like, yeah, these people need to just shut up. That's what they have to do, because they're not doing anybody any good except for just making themselves miserable and trying to bring down everybody else around them and make them miserable because they don't like the fact they're miserable and they can't change that. But you know what? We don't care. It's a party over here. We're celebrating. It doesn't matter if it's been 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, we're going to be celebrating, but hopefully saving the country in the process as well. And it's going to be glorious to cover that. So we're going to get to the super chats, of which we have a lot of them, about half of them from Johnny Hart Dog. That's to be expected. But we have Johnny Hart Dog. He sent all of these, so I'll just read off what he says. I'm still pissed about ranked choice not getting repealed. Well, they are recounting it, the ballots, it seems, but it's kind of a cope. Recounts don't usually change much. But I digress. Also, don't want to be overly optimistic. Could it be Dems are in disarray because there's no way they could retake the House? Could they be in such disarray there's no way they could retake the House? It's not about taking the House, controlling the House and Senate. Also, a lot of talk about Elon buying MSNBC. I don't see it happening. Well, they'd lose all their viewers. He might just try to buy it to troll them. As for the House, we kind of covered it already, but the main takeaway is, yes, it's possible. There's something called mid-decade redistricting also. Keep in mind, if Trump is super popular, like presidents don't usually end up being popular when they're reaching the midterms. But you did see Bill Clinton in 1998, George Bush in 2002. Like the asterisk years exist for a reason. Like Reagan wasn't popular in 82. He lost a bit he's in the 40s. But he regained a lot of popularity before his re-election bid. So it's entirely possible. Depends what the economy's doing. It depends on a lot of things. But yes, I'm not ruling out the possibility of it. And a good chunk of it is because Democrats don't have an answer to anything. What are they going to try to do? If Trump comes in there and then the economy 2 years from now is actually getting on its feet and it feels like it's 2019 all over again, or early 2020, it's like, yeah, of course, they're going to try to say it's Biden's economy. It's like, no, it's not. It's not Biden's economy. Nobody's going to believe you. Not a single person is going to believe you. And you don't even get to claim the Biden administration anymore because they essentially threw him under the bus. If Biden had such a good economy that he built, then why wasn't he the nominee? But that's not the main argument against it. But you understand what I'm saying. Johnny also says, I'm tired of everyone hating on Rubio. I think he's solid. Politics is politics. So, of course, Rubio said things in the past, so it advance. Yeah, I'm not worried about Rubio. Like I said, if people want to say, keep an eye in the sky, that's fine. But knowing how Rubio operates in politics, you have somebody he's been a loyalist. Now, he's been loyal to the establishment when he was running against Trump. But then when Trump has won and retaken control of the party, he's drifted towards Trump. So he's a, blow the way the wind does kind of guy. But if Trump says, do this, this, and this, he's going to do it. He's not dumb. And if he wants to ever run for higher office, he's going to have to endear himself to Trump's base because that's the party now. He's not stupid. He understands that. Whether it's a grift or not, it's irrelevant because if he's grifting by doing a good job as Secretary of State, then he can grift his way till the cows come home. Also, Johnny for 10 saying, in your opinion, where do you think Gates would be the most effective special counsel senator? I don't want him to be governor. He needs to be working against the swamp. So what do you think? Well, he could run for Attorney General of Florida. It's possible, but I think he's going to be effective at the national level. Special counsels do not have to be appointed or confirmed, but they can be appointed. So yeah, if Trump says, you know what, Matt, you're going to be basically doing the work of the AG, you're going to be working right with Pam, well, they're not going to be able to do anything about it. It is 4D chess, and it does work. So, they can suck it. All the people that say, oh, it can't happen, there's no 4D. It's there, okay? Trump's the art of the deal, all right? He knows better than these clowns know about how to be president, okay? He did a damn good job for 4 years. The things people complain about, the main reasons being personnel, they're trying to find reasons to complain about the current new personnel, despite the fact there's not really a lot of reasons to complain. There's not. It's nitpicking. It's petty. It's foolish. It's an industry for these people. Engagement baiting, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. They lost. A lot of these people never backed Trump. If they did, it was like, oh, we'll vote for him over the other guy. So I don't want to hear it from people that are wrong about everything. How are they still tweeting from inside a crystal? I don't even know. But Johnny for 10 or for 5 says Pam is arguably more qualified than Gates, is just as loyal, not as much of a fire dog, but she knows the rope better. That's fair analysis. Qualifications are not always what determines if you're going to be good at your job, but she has more experience being a prosecutor, it seems, than Gates has. But like I said, Gates can be put right in that DOJ. He's going to be able to be effective. Also, Johnny says, do you think demonic Dems will get their act together, be competitive by the... Well, it's possible. I haven't seen it yet, though. I haven't seen anybody try... the one person I've seen that's talked reason is Chunk Yogurt and his co-host. That's the only person. He destroys Lichtman. He goes on Piers Morgan as the voice of reason for some reason. And this is the same guy who is famous for being a total raving lunatic blowhard and melting down on stream in 2016 when Trump won the first time. So it's intriguing to see that. But it's like if Democrats wanted to be smart, they'd work with Donald Trump. They'd work with him instead of against him. It's true. They'd find common ground, but they don't want to find common ground because the Democrats are controlled and owned by the donor class. You have some Democrats who are kind of a little bit distant from that, want to distance themselves from it and sign on to some of these more like populistic reforms or whatever, and are willing to put identity politics in the back burner. But a lot of those people like RFK Jr., Tulsi, they already became Republicans essentially. Whether they have or not is, in terms of their registrations, not the point. Also, one more thing, Alaska is recounting the ballot measure to repeal ranked voting. I hope it changes the outcome, but it's unlikely. It's unlikely a recount's going to move that much. Red Whale for 10 says, in my opinion, there's only 2 scenarios for the Democrats. 1, keep the woke left on life support until 28, easy win for JD. Or 2, they go diet woke and make everybody mad in the party. Yeah, well, they have no option. They've woked themselves out of power, out of business. It's insane. And honestly, it is true that Trump in his abortion stance made this possible because they were able to capitalize on that if they were actually running against the Trump that they tried to make him out to be. It's like when Trump in 2020 tried to call Biden, he's like a socialist or something. It's like people didn't see Biden that way. Whether you want to argue about the results, we could do that. But that's not the point. The main point is that you have to, if you want to beat Trump, you have to attack him effectively. Democrats have never attacked him effectively. But, it was very hard for them. So they had to run against this caricature that nobody believed. And it's just raving lunacy. It's good for the base. It saved him a few Senate seats, but that's all they did. That's all they did. Stephen Knizik for Tense says, makes a rational man wonder what Trump's real approval numbers were in his first term, given that approval polls are as reliable as your typical Seltzer 2024 poll. Well, they were not. I mean, if we're going to be honest, they were still likely below 50, but probably a point or two higher than like the RCP average was. I mean, the media blitz was hell, and people at that point still watch the mainstream media. They don't do that anymore. In fact, Democrats overplayed their hand during COVID because it red-pilled a lot of people during that period of time after. It was mainly 2021, I think, was the turning point. 2021, 22, they had a little bit of energy with like Dobbs and all that, but it went away. It all went away. What's left of their party, essentially? What is left? They don't even have a single wing of government. They've got a few governors in there in some of these states. In fact, of the big 7 swing states, I'm pretty sure every single one except Georgia and Nevada has a Democrat governor. But it doesn't mean much. Governors are governors. People have their weird tendencies when they vote. You have people that hate Gretchen Whitmer but still vote for her. I don't know why they do that, but that's just how they operate. Lovely Six is odds of Tulsi and I assume you mean RFK getting confirmed. Bernie Sanders indicated, I think they're going to get confirmed. And I think the whole Gates thing, in a way, it kind of lowers, it increases the tolerance threshold for some of these people where, even if they oppose Gates, it's like, okay, well, they might be like, I'll vote for RFK, but I can't vote for Gates or something like that. Like, it kind of shockwaves some of these people, makes them fall in line, which is what I said. It is part of 4D chess. Gates bowed out himself. He's not the type of guy to do that. He didn't do it because Trump wanted him to. It's because it was probably always a part of said plan. Now, you may not trust the plan or think the plan's going to work out, but that's the way it is. Jonathan Williams has suggested 2025 roadmap for the channel. January through June is event and general news coverage. July and September is miscellaneous and documentaries. October to December is predictions for 20. Well, I think we could do all 3 of those, actually. It doesn't have to be a set roadmap. We're going to mix in all 3 of those throughout the year. I'm not ready to start doing 2026 predictions anytime soon. But, we'll touch base on certain things. If I have a video idea that I feel like I want to share with the people, we're going to do it. We're going to be doing documentaries this upcoming month. I want to do one on the cabinet, and I don't know, maybe like an end of the year thing that's not going to be super long, but it would be a good video in that style, that format. Ice Cream Junkie says thoughts on Trump's pro-union labor secretary. Like I said, it's a gift to the part of the new base. I don't agree with her on everything, but it showcases that the party's changing. Like, do I like that the teachers' unions tend to like the pick? Probably not. Probably not, because I don't like the teachers' unions. The private unions, yes, I do. I'm fine with them. But you have a lot of these woke union types, and a lot of unions have become money laundering schemes for the Democrats, although, Teamsters are kind of breaking away from that a little bit. So I don't know. It's a big gamble for sure. The problem mainly is the union heads, more so than, the people have like the right to collective bargain or not. Of course, they have the right to negotiate wages and working. I don't think there's really much of a disagreement there. Republicans dying on strange hills like that is not the way to win. But I will say that in terms of unions themselves, there is a major problem with unions and how they operate, because they do operate against the interests of their workers, because the number one union buster is mass immigration. Illegal immigration plays into that in a big way. But the unions support the party of mass immigration. And they don't care about, in many cases, they don't care about their workers. So I'm not against the concept. I have problems with unions. I don't oppose the labor secretary because she might be a bit over the top in her support of unions. I think it's kind of weird hill to die on. In fact, it's better than putting somebody in there that's openly hostile towards unions that may turn off some of the new base. And that's what people should understand. So it's not perfect, but she's an advisor. She's there to work alongside other advisors that probably disagree. It's like a lot of people will lose their mind over every little pick, not understanding what the role of some of these positions truly are. You know, Trump is the president. Trump had a horrendous foreign policy. Oh, they were awful, but he still had a great foreign policy. Didn't start any new wars, despite having an administration staffed with neocons. So again, maybe not perfect. Maybe we didn't pull out of as many conflicts as we'd like to, but he's still calling the shots. And now he knows more than anybody else knows. And he's got a better cabinet than he's ever had. So hopefully the good picks stick around for sure. And hopefully stick around longer. Red whale politics for 10 says, I love when people say Trump ruined the GOP. If it wasn't for Trump, the GOP would be dead. They'd be trying to be the dollar store Reagan. Yeah, it did not work. And that's the thing. They can't have that argument. Guys, they said he lost us these elections, 2022, 2018. It's like he's on the ballot for 2 of those 3. The other, he basically won when you had everything in the world stacked against him. Now, I'm kind of glad it worked out the way it did, because if you just got a second-term neutered Trump full of these neocons in the cabinet, you wouldn't have had this epic victory. You wouldn't have had a trifecta. You wouldn't have had a mandate, a modern landslide, whatever you want to call it. You wouldn't have had it. Seth X says Brandon Herrera for ATF. Break it down, then shut it down. It's a little bit of a pipe dream pick, but that would be a good pick in my opinion. Somebody who's willing to get rid of it, period. Hopefully Doge can take that on. Vercom Pracy says, curious your thoughts on House races flipping to Dems 18 days after the election. Well, I mean, that one has been they've been counting that for a long time. Like some of these counties, which are not even in that district, but they're waiting. How long do you have to count? Lake County, California has counted like 16,000 votes. They're counting less than 1,000 votes a day. Texas and Florida combined counted like 25 million votes in 7 hours. What are they doing? You can't even say for that county it's shenanigans or fraud, because there's no competitive races in that county. There's no congressional district. There's no competitive state. It's just lazy. You have incompetent lunatics that are on the left that are in California, and this is how they operate. These people do not have common sense. They lecture people about who has the education or whatever. You can have a highly educated electorate that's just plain stupid because they don't have common sense. There's plenty of highly educated people with common sense, hence why Trump is still winning 45% of them. But you have a lot of them that just don't have common sense. Well, maybe you are good at engineering. That doesn't mean that you could somehow be like you'd think they'd be able to engineer an election system that would be efficient and effective. That's not how it works. But as for like the shenanigans stuff, I mean, I think in some of these California races, absolutely, they mail everybody a ballot. But I think a lot of that is more baked in. I don't think it explains the reason why. I think Wisconsin was a very shady state in 2020. They still counted all their ballots within one day. So again, I think California, it's a deep-rooted problem for why they're still counting ballots. Some of these races could flip red and have flipped red 10 days after it doesn't matter. I mean, first of all, Duarte still might win, and there's a very slim chance, but a non-zero chance Steele could win in the Orange County district. But that's not the main point. All New Year 24 says, Repple, are you all right? You seem a little somber. No, I'm fine. I'm not. I mean, like, what do you want me to do? You want me to I don't even understand how that even, I don't feel in that mood at all. But Jonathan Williams says Trump needs to enact Taft-Hartley if the longshoremen try pulling the crap again with the temporary contract expires in January. The economy is on the line. Well, Trump's got to make a deal. Who makes deals? Who was the president that's known for that? Oh, it's Trump. He's coming back. So I think we'll probably be fine. Ragdoll MMA says, my body, my choice didn't apply to masks and exactly. It didn't apply to that stuff. The vaccine mandates, the mask mandates, but when and you talk about what's deadly, we could talk about abortion. That's something that is actually, unlike a lot of what we saw, or a lot like the overblown narrative of the other thing. Big Mike says, do you think the wall gets finished this time? I think more of it gets done. Are we going to have every inch sealed? I mean, it's tough. You got Congress, you got other things, but they should get it done. They spend all this money on Ukraine. You could have built thousands of walls by now. So I hope. Now, am I expecting the world? Maybe not. But I hope we get a lot of it, at least a good chunk of it complete, a lot more than we did the first time. Giblet for 20 says, a terrible liberal judge was confirmed by the Senate because Vance and Rubio were not there because of scheduling conflicts, according to Daily Wire. Don't mean to be a downer or hype for this administration. I saw, but it is possible that if they were there, then they would have just called in Fetterman and then they would have equalized it out. Like, it is true, they control the Senate. So you have people missing on both sides. Like, should we have as many people there as possible? I guess. I would say so. But it is true, Democrats still control the Senate. They could have just got their people there too. The jaded Kriegsman says the never-Trumpers are just old neocons that are dead set on trying to maintain the old liberal world order that they destroyed. Yeah, exactly. When they let the CCP into the WTO and all the Middle Eastern wars. Yeah, I mean, they've supported all these things. They've destroyed the nation, by and large, arguably more than the left has in some instances. They'll win elections. Well, look at the damage Bush did to the country. Look at the damage he did with all of his surveillance state initiative. Like, it's not even the damage that he did with the wars. That's part of it. But it's like, you have a mandate to be the most nationalist president in history of the nation after 9/11. You have a 90% approval rating, and you squander it on a surveillance state in foreign wars that were not for our benefit. That is not something that should be looked at and say, oh, well, this guy he was okay. He wasn't as bad as, no, he was very bad. He's honestly worse than what the Democrats say. It's ironically hilarious how they all like him now. That should tell you something. That should tell you something. Whether those were his intentions when he got elected or not, that could be an entirely different ballgame. But that's the way it goes. M3M says, Chunk redeemed with Lichtman fighties Chink now. That was one of the best pieces of media that I've ever witnessed. Alan Lichtman, it's a world of denial. If you watch the whole interview, there's other things he was just rambling about. Oh, the economy, it's disinformation. He says inflation's going down. No, it's not. It's going up. The rate going down doesn't necessarily mean that groceries are getting any cheaper. Then he's like, well, the only way it's going to go down is if you have a recession. It's like, actually, we did have a recession. They were the ones that changed the definition of a recession at the White House to say it wasn't a recession. And that's when inflation was at 9%. Supposed world-renowned history professor, off the mark, how many times? And he just repeats the same bogusness ever, like he could repeat. It's like you have the same thing you're accusing the right of doing with disinformation. You're the one doing it. You're the one doing it, and you can't relate to people and their concerns, and you're trying to blame them for being irrational? Really? They're irrational because they can't afford groceries, so they want to change in Washington. They're irrational because they don't think it's a good thing that the country's being flooded in with millions upon millions of migrants from third world countries illegally. They like how just out of touch can these people be? Seriously, double down on that. Claim you want to censor free speech again. See how well it goes for you. See how well it goes for you in 26 and 28. See how well it does. Seriously. John N. says one reason for the Rubio pick was to help America's relationship with Cuba. They've been broke since the central COVID lockdowns. Well, I don't think Rubio likes the Cuban government very much, for the record. I think Trump, in terms of the Cuban people, he won a ridiculous amount of them. But when it comes to Rubio, I think Rubio's more be tough on China, but be a peace through strength kind of guy. That's how he wants Rubio to lead. And I really think he's got a really good potential to be a really good Secretary of State if he gets in there and does that and enacts on what he said he would enact, Trump's agenda. In terms of his approach to foreign policy, which I agree has been murky in terms of his career-long record. There's no really debating that. But there's signs that it can be a solid choice, given some of his recent improvement, which I have no reason to say is 100% just fake so he could get in there and stab Trump in the back, because he's not. He's more of just like a guy you can push around than a guy who's going to stab you in the back. At least that's the way I've always taken the guy as. Mask McGee says you should grow out the mustache goatee. Well, I kind of am. It's an entire beard. I trim parts of it so it grows in thicker, but it is there. Whether the camera showcases it in full or not is a little irrelevant. Thomas Willingham says Fetterman makes some good points. Well, Fetterman, he somehow became smarter from his brain injury. We were expecting him to go in there and be the most radical senator. He's actually the most moderate Democrat senator. It's not saying anything at all, by the way. I mean, he's going to vote against the Republican agenda 90-odd% of the time, but he's, sometimes will say things that make sense. He does. And hopefully he can work with Trump on trade or something and help some legislation get passed. All New Year 24 says, maybe it was because I wasn't feeling great that night, but 2024 didn't have the same lightning in a bottle magic as 2016. Still awesome. Well, part of it is because we thought Trump had a really good shot to win, more so than a lot of people in 2016 who didn't really see it coming. I mean, I feel like it was just too surreal to the point where, and it happened too quickly, to the point where you were really able to take it in and enjoy it. I think we're still all recovering from it at a certain level. A lot of people were burned out headed into that election, felt like a very long process, long cycle. There's all this early voting. There's all this other stuff. I mean, I felt a little burnt out the week leading up to it, but you know what? We had a really good time, and I didn't really feel that way come election night. And we saw Donald Trump walk off with a victory when he won Pennsylvania at not even 12:30 Eastern time. It was a very short night. I didn't think we would, I thought we might get a call on election night, but I didn't think we'd get a call, or at least we'd know the winner. But I didn't think it'd be that quickly. Say it louder for the people in back, please. Sent 5 just because I said art of the deal. Well, thank you. Darth Chipmunk says day 7, free the alt. Well, it's been day 7 for a month. How many day 7 super chats are we going to get? Stephen Kanizik for 10 says, don't underestimate leftism turning off liberals. Kasparian from TYT's become more right-wing as time goes on because of leftist policies. Sargon of Akkad even suggested she may have voted for Trump. Yeah, those type of people, like Anna Kasparian, I think she probably would vote for Vance in 2028. Whether she's going to admit it now or not is irrelevant. She might have voted for Trump. I honestly would not be surprised if she just didn't vote or wrote in, I don't know, Cenk or somebody. But no, it is true. She's coming home, and Cenk is also, he's becoming, they say, is he becoming conservative? I say he's becoming Armenian. The Turk is, the Turk is transforming himself, because it's not even that he's going to come around, because I don't know if he's really going to ever be a true MAGA Cenk. It's just because he's talking common sense, he's objectively entertaining, and he destroyed Helen Lichtman in the funniest way possible. The funniest way. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe Cenk is one of those secret. There's a lot of people in Turkey that are actually secretly Armenian from the Armenian genocide. The young people, a lot of them just were integrated and forced to assimilate in Turkish society. I don't know. Maybe Cenk is actually secretly one of those people. I don't know. Paul Craig says, have you ever considered a political run? I have, but we're not quite there yet. Let's see. We got a lot of super chats, guys. I updated it. We got, okay, Security TV says Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears is going to run for governor. Do you think she has I think Democrats are probably favored. Spanberger, deep state Spanberger. She's got a lot of ties, a lot of money. Sears is, I don't think, as strong as Youngkin. I really don't. I mean, she won the same year he did, but he kind of carried her in that case. But it'll be interesting to watch. I mean, she's also not really been the biggest fan of Trump either. So, how does that play out with the base? Does Trump get involved and endorse? He might not. Who knows? But we'll see. But I think lean D for right now, but you never know. And we'll also watch New Jersey. New Jersey was close. People forget about it, but it was. Red Whale Politics is, do you think Virginia or even Maryland can go? Well, Maryland is not going red, but Virginia maybe in the future could. All New Year 24 says, what are some politicians here in America you would consider paternalistic conservatives? It's a loaded term. If you're talking about like a socially conservative, like populist type, I mean, you could even say somebody like Vance could fit that bill, somebody like a Josh Hawley. There's probably several House members that could fit that bill, but it is a loaded question in terms of what you mean by paternalistic conservative. Oliver Montgomery says, what percent of conservatives are anti-Israel? I'd say less than 2%. They're usually terminally online, very rare. Yeah, very rare in real life. There's a segment in real life, a well-adjusted segment of people that are like a little bit more nonchalant, as if they just don't care. Maybe they're against like foreign aid, but they're not these it's like Israel derangement syndrome, where at times they're just like more anti-Israel than anything. It becomes a part of their identity. It's probably a slim portion, very loud portion of the online right might fit in that designation or whatever. But like I said, I mean, like you said, they're very terminally online. They're not in real life. These are the same people that said Trump is abandoning his base by supporting Israel. It's like, have you met an average like conservative boomer? I mean, they love Israel. You can say that their reasons are not valid enough or whatever. You can try to make that argument from an intellectual perspective, but I don't see any of these people doing that. I see just a bunch of, you can fill in the blanks. You know what I'm trying to say. I don't even know the word for it, but I guess you would just say low IQ posting. We'll go with that. Red Whale Politics says, what are future battleground states? Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens in New Jersey. We could talk about a state and then the next cycle it does something strange. So, I think we'll know closer to 28. I think New Mexico, depending on which way some of these Hispanics go, could continue to get more competitive. Maybe New Jersey. New York is a little bit of a stretch, but if the trends continue, is it possible down the line? Then yes, it's possible. Alex says, who did the worst Commanders kicker or the Democrats? The Democrats, because it was a bad snap. Nyron Alm says, in California 41, my neighbors openly talked about ballot stuffing after Election Day. Remember, they're sore losers and cheaters, ends justify. Oh, of course they do. Even if it means knocking off some like relatively establishment congressman or woman, it doesn't matter to them. And it is true. Like California, like is it because they're counting slow is the evidence of shenanigans? No, not in and of itself. There have been races where they count for days and you get a Republican victor. My main concern is the fact that you have all these mass mail-in ballots sent everywhere, and it's very shady. There's no chain of custody. Some people I know in California, several people I know have reported getting multiple ballots. That is not something. In 2020, a lot of states temporarily changed their laws to allow for similar stuff. That's why 2020 I don't really view to be a result that is all that legitimate. And the mainstream media, and I think people look at 24 and they're like, yeah, 2020 was the anomaly. Why was it that way? It's like, because we know why it was that way. You changed the laws. You effectively cheated, whether you want to say it's not the right word to use or not. You have all these people. You have ballot harvest, all these nursing homes, apartment complexes, these precincts in certain counties. There's all these irregularities. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. But people that point this out, they get labeled deniers, conspiracies, and it's like, no, it's not the way it is. It's a legitimate problem. And all I would have to say is, okay, let's say these people are conspiracies. Why don't you restore confidence in the electoral system by doing it in like a Florida level manner? They won't do it. Oh no, we could never do that. And then they can't give a reason why. It's like, you understand why. It's because, look, we know. And we beat it in many cases. We beat it. Even California got a hell of a lot redder this election. But I don't know. Maybe it's the illegal aliens. Even, their price is too high for them. They want to go back home. They're voting for Trump. I don't know. I guarantee you some people did. Guarantee you that happened somewhere in California. Aaron Ratliff says LTE was behind the Kamala. Yeah, everybody knows. He worked with them. He's on their payroll. Everybody knew it. They saw the pictures of, they're wearing the T-shirts for Biden. Like, these people, and they run the most shameless lying account I've ever seen, the most dishonest account. But honestly, I think it was so bad that it helped Trump win. So I'm not going to sit up here and like do anything but laugh. But it is true. Same people that try to claim they're more like unbiased or whatever. They're not unbiased. They're on the payroll of the DNC. I'm not on the payroll of the RNC. Wish I was. I'd probably make a hell of a lot more money if I was. But it's not the way it goes. Red Whale Politics for 10 says, I love the narrative that Trump got away with his crimes even though the cases were falling apart, or he got away with it because he is rich. What happened to trust the legal system? Exactly. They're going back to, oh no, now they'll go back to the justice system is rigged, which it is, but against Trump, not against them. So, you thought you got the guy. You said accountability for what? Crimes that jump different jurisdictions and get trumped up, no pun intended, to felonies from misdemeanors, and you can't even prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, and he still gets convicted by a jury that hates him? Like, come on. We understand. He says the system's rigged against him. He's right. Everybody can see it. And the more they push back on it, the stronger Trump gets. Jacob Hawley says, glad to have voted Trump as a Bernie supporter. I'm excited for Vance. He's pro-labor and pro-actual good union. I'm pumped. Might register as GOP. See, people like this guy, you have people that'll criticize the LCD pick, and whether people want to point to certain areas of it where maybe it is not perfect or whatever is one thing. But, people like this guy, like, that's kind of what Trump has done and is expand the 10 and outreach. The old guard GOP could never do that. But, a lot of people want to go back to that. It's a dinosaur ideology. Like, is it really? And it's honestly, this is the Republican Party's old roots back in the early 1900s. Protectionism, somewhat union friendly, not like blindly though. Like that's been what the Republican Party stood for like 100 years ago. Plus, an America First foreign policy. Trump is taking him back to the roots. Ice Cream Junkie for 10 says, I accurately predicted 49 out of 50 states. I'm a 22-year-old IT dude with no political science education or background, but I was more accurate than world-renowned distinguished I don't even think Alan Lichtman is a Harvard historian. I think he went to some other school. I could be wrong. But yeah, it is true. Oh, he went to Harvard. Okay, he was educated at Harvard. He did not teach at Harvard. He taught at American University. So there you go. But it is true that, again, his takes were all just not good. And now he tries to say, no, it's because the electorate's irrational. They can look at their pocketbooks. They can go to the grocery store. They don't need to. It's like, oh, well, they weren't educated that the economy that was actually not working in their favor was actually a good economy. It's like, do you hear yourself? And then you want to say that anybody who goes against you is committing blasphemy. You dare not blaspheme Alan Lichtman, he says. And his little keys, his keychain. The Jaded Kriegsman says, I hate the idea Trump is opposed to alliances. He doesn't. He just hates free riders. That was the issue with NATO allies. Yeah, exactly. Like, you have people that say, well, some of Trump's picks don't want to dismantle NATO. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's never really been what Trump wants to do. Like, I'm not entirely opposed to the idea if we could get it done. And like, I'm not a big fan of these global organizations. I try to be as non-interventionist as possible. But at the end of the day, it's like NATO exists. It's not probably going anywhere anytime soon. Would you rather have somebody that makes it a fairer playing field, or would you rather have somebody that's just going to continuously just mindlessly throw money at these foreign conflicts like in Ukraine? I think I know the answer of who's going to overall be better, and it's Donald Trump. Ice Cream Junkie says, Alan Lichtman blocked me on X because I said he should A, admit the model is flawed, or B, admit his... Yeah, exactly. It is his bias. He is deranged with TDS. He cannot objectively look at the situation. He has in the past. He's changed his keys to fit the situation in the past. He doesn't do it now because it would have made Trump look good. So now it seems like he's not predicting elections anymore. From what I've heard, he's going to give the keys to like his son or whatever. It's like, okay, well, you went out just like Seltzer in a blaze of defeat. Jonathan Williams says, Texas v. Johnson case allowing flag burning, and West Virginia v. Barrett letting kids skip the Pledge of Allegiance should be reversed. Thoughts? Well, it's possible if they can be. I mean, I do want to throw a little kid in jail because they're not going to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. Is that my top priority? Probably not. But like I said, in terms of flag burning, you have people that will get 20 years in jail for like a hate crime because they burn a gay flag in public or whatever, even if it's their own property. If that's okay, or certain hate, if you want to say hate crimes are a thing, yeah, the American flag, burning the American flag should also apply to like the hate crime thing. Technically, you could talk about the freedom of speech argument. I understand both sides of that argument. I don't think realistically that it's going to happen, that we're going to get that overturned. But should it be overturned, we could have that debate. We could. Because, you know, freedom of speech, it is freedom, but at the same time, it's not applied across the board, usually. Mountain Goddess for 10 says, Californian here. This is the second general election. I received 2 ballots. And apparently they have different numbers. Interesting. And you're not the only person that said that. You're not the only person. American Patriot says, who are the rhinos that need to be primaried in 2026? There's a lot of them. Cornyn, Graham. I don't know about Tillis. If we can find a candidate that can beat him and win the general, I'm cool with it. You're not going to beat him. You're not going to primary him out with Mark Robinson and have things end well. But if there's somebody else, maybe if Dan Bishop wants to go for it and he's got like the party endorsement of the state party, yeah, it's possible you could force him into retirement, hold that seat, and get somebody better. But I'd look at the deep red states more so than the swing states, because you have a lot of people that should not be there that are in those positions and they need to go. People like John Cornyn, at least push him to the right. Mike Rounds is another in South Dakota. There's plenty of them. It's very hard to knock off these senators, but hopefully there's a couple primary challenges. If they can at least push the senator to the right, it's a net benefit. We'll see. So Daniel Walker says, make a video about future swing states going red, potentially Minnesota, Illinois, Virginia, New York, New Jersey, New Mexico, and Utah, Alaska, Kansas, Nebraska, and Georgia going blue. Illinois population declining becomes red. I don't think Nebraska is going anywhere. I don't even know if Kansas is going anywhere, to be honest. I think we'll have a better picture after 2028 of how the map is going to look like. But I mean, like certain states, like, people will say, oh, well, Arizona actually trended left because the nation moved right by 6 and Arizona moved right by just a hair less than that or something. And it's like, it still misses the overall point because, some of these states just moved so much to the right that those are more like elastic, and it doesn't really showcase the full trend. Like California is not going to probably move right by 10 points next election if you have the same like national environment. But you never know. You never know. These things are always in flux. That's why it's hard to do a one-to-one analysis of all these states. Red Whale Politics is, why do you think Dems don't use the term dino? Well, they kind of do sometimes. Like for Joe Manchin, I've seen him being called a dino before, but it's just because a lot of those people left the party when Trump came along, and you have a lot of the old guard Democrats that I guess may have fit that bill that retired. And then like the most moderate Democrat is John Fetterman. So is he going to be called a dino? They have other words for these people on the left. I mean, that they're mad at him because of like AIPAC or something, or they're mad at him because he said nice things about Trump or whatever, or some of his cabinet picks. They'll find other words. They'll say he's like a corporate Democrat. But like the fact that it's true that like the far left, they're socially far left. Economically, they're just in line with what the Democrats' vision is. On the left, it's true that a lot of them, but that's like the entire Democrat Party. Like you have people like Bernie Sanders, but they're just far left on everything. If you had some of Bernie Sanders' policies and some of his like 2016 rhetoric without the baggage in a hypothetical candidate, could they possibly be competitive? It's possible. But then again, when you have somebody who literally calls himself a socialist, praises communist dictatorships, and then when he ran in 2020 trying to be like the I told you so I would have beat Trump, you got him going out there embracing the full Hillary identity politics stuff. It just did not work out for him. There's no like that mythical Democrat that you could like be afraid of doesn't really exist, in my opinion, especially with the changing age demographics. A lot of these people that love to cling to like the zombie Reaganism, a lot of them are older, in their 50s, 60s, 70s. I feel like that demographic doesn't understand that a good chunk of the electorate's like under the age of 45. In 2016, like they were under the age of 35. So, the game has changed. It's not what it was before. And it's a good thing the younger people are some of the most Republican. You talk about this poll that we're showing on screen. When you break it down by age, 65% of people under the age of 25 have an approval rating that's positive of Donald Trump's transition. So that should tell you that there is a shift in the younger generations towards Trump. It's like whatever Reagan was for like some of these boomers and older Gen Xers, that's kind of what we're seeing for some of the Zoomers, and I don't know, maybe eventually the Gen Alphas will follow, or the kids of the Zoomers. I guess that'd be Generation Beta, not the most fortunate name, but what can I say? So Popular Sovereignty says executive order number 1 due to the illegal enemy combatant invasion. I don't know if he's going to suspend habeas corpus. I don't know. I know Lincoln did it. You never know. You absolutely never know. So let's see. I'll look in regular chat for about a minute, and then we're going to end the show. Michael Shepard says, sorry to spam, but the Mormon vote went down from 72 to 64. I mean, I don't know how it's polled. I don't think it went down that much, to be honest, looking at the map. It's been, pretty stagnant. If anything, it went up for Trump. But Mormons as at large, they've kind of been moving a little bit away from Republicans because they don't like Trump's like personality or whatever. They were in full force for Mitt Romney. It was actually the reddest state in the country in, 2012. And then after that, it just has gone to not necessarily competitive status, but It's like, I guess you would say the opposite of like one of those northeastern states like Connecticut, where it's like not going to be within 10, but, you know, it's not going to be a cakewalk for Republicans. It's not like they're going to be able to count on it being one of the reddest states in the nation. And there's a lot of Californians that have moved in, which again are more conservative than people make them out to be, but still not exactly the most Republican voting demographic compared to the original population, especially because a lot of them are liberal that are moving to Salt Lake City. Some of the ones moving to like Provo are going to be more conservative. Daniel Walker says Dems are screwed after 2030 census. Oh, absolutely. They would be, and if we had a proper census. It'd be interesting to see if Trump tries to fight it. That'd make the map easier for Vance, but I don't know if there's a plausible constitutional pathway to do it, but we always can find a loophole. Red Whale Politics says Shapiro is like the only competent candidate. I don't even think he's all that good. He's like 5'4". He's a wannabe Obama. He's an overrated governor. I mean, like, he's going to probably flame out of a primary. I'm not too worried about Josh Shapiro. It's like him and Gretchen Whitmer are probably on the same wavelength of should we be worried about this person. They're like C-tier candidates. J.D. Vance can eviscerate a lot. Like he is a strong candidate. He's going to be the nominee, whether people are super enthusiastic about that or not. He's going to be the nominee. So you heard it here first. Unless Trump is a horrible presidency, and I don't think that's going to happen. Ash K2 says in August when Patola got 50% in the primary, there was concern she'd win the 26th Senate race, though she could still run for governor. Idaho's never concerned about the Senate race. I never thought Sullivan would be at risk, even to Peltola. I think she'd probably would have, judging from the primary results, won re-election. I was wrong about that and held the House seat in 26. But now that she lost now, it's like, yeah, I don't even think she'd possibly, well, maybe the governor's race is a bit iffy. She's got a shot, I guess, if she goes for it, but I wouldn't even say she's favored if Republicans can put up somebody halfway decent. And that's a tough ask for Republicans sometimes, but BB says Utah Mormons are different from Idaho Mormons. They are, and also Arizona Mormons, but everywhere I've seen in those communities, they've moved to the right. So, anyways, I think we're going to wrap it up. I will be probably not streaming for another week, but after Thanksgiving. So I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. But after the Thanksgiving break, I will resume my stream schedule probably 2 or 3 times a week. Jet Politics is what job should Trump assign Vance to? I don't know. It depends. We'll find out. I can't think of any at the top of my head. Red Whale Politics says, is Michigan and Minnesota underrated for the GOP? I mean, I don't know what you mean by that. I feel like Michigan, there still is room to grow. Minnesota, I think it depends. It's possible Vance could win it. He's Midwestern. People forget that. That does go a long way. Top Gear Fan 2848 says it turned out that 826 people in Adams County, Pennsylvania voted for Trump. We still swung left by 0.5%. I don't know what you mean by 826, or you turned out 826. Well, that's good. Tucson Paleocon's his favorite Thanksgiving side dish. I think the stuffing, if it's good stuffing, it can be really good. It can be slept on. It's a basic, but it's always good. But that's the way it goes, guys. So I will see you guys in the next one. Make sure you like the stream. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, do all that good stuff. And I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great Thanksgiving. I'll still be uploading this week, but I'll see you in a live stream probably in about a week or so. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle out.